but then they have confidence that that's actually going to happen. So like, if you're listening to this, one, shoot for the person, like go for it.
Not at the point where you understand the value of what a service like a recruiter is, and it doesn't have to be.
What do you want in your life that you're not getting today? And let's build the business around that. And it's so like, whoa.
Like, I will die. I would rather die and give that than to live this way.
All right, podcast episode number 3 on the Built for More podcast. My name is Ryan Charterina. I run Peakform Advisory, and this podcast was made for business owners. They're doing 7 or 8 figures in revenue. They've just been grinding. This podcast was made for you so that you can see how you don't need to grind anymore. You need to work smarter, not harder. And this podcast is really 2 different things. Number 1, it's going to be about business owners who have achieved that. And they're going to come on here and share their stories about how they've done that in their own businesses. And then others will bring on are going to be business owners that want to do that and what things are slowing them down from being able to do that. So today's guest, first person to fly in for a podcast episode. Woo-hoo. First person to fly in for the event. Well, it's our first event and our 3rd podcast episode. So it's like, it works. So I just want to introduce everyone to Haj. Haj is the owner of Trueline Recruiting. They have personally helped multiple of my clients hire some pretty high-level people. I'm super pumped for Haj to kind of share a little bit about the people thing because, as most of you know and will know a lot of is, we talk a lot about people. So Haj, super happy to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for making the trek down.
Absolutely. Give me a reason to get out of Maine. That's great. Good to be in Jersey. Love it.
Is it any warmer down here or no?
Actually, it is. It's probably a good 5 to 10 degrees warmer.
Ooh,
yeah.
Nice.
So I'm feeling good. It's nice and tropical.
Feeling
Got
good.
my sunglasses ready to go.
Feeling tropical. So if you don't mind, if you want to just share a little bit about your business, your background, what you guys specialize in, just give a brief introduction for the listeners.
Sure. Yeah. So Trueline Talent, we full service recruiting agency. I actually, there's a little bit of a small conglomerate that we owned. Trueline started close to 20 years ago as a publishing house. So we were literally called Trueline Publishing. And our whole existence at that time was based around producing these magazines that were industry insider publications that focused on personal branding and business branding. So yeah, it was really fun. We still do that, but we've evolved from that. So it started off there. And what we would do, the idea would be, we'd feature, for example, in our Vanguard Law Magazine publication, we'd feature a high-level general counsel for Motorola, like someone like Frank Cassidy at the time, someone that we had featured in the past. And we would create content that would rank first on their Google search, right? So that when someone Googled Frank or someone else, that we had featured, immediately this SEO piece comes up, which helps to shape the overall personal branding narrative for that executive. So that way, if they're applying for a different job, for example, or from a business perspective, if they wanted something front and center about their department, one of our articles would show up as one of the first things people saw when they Googled them. So we could really just shape just overall PR and perspective. It was really nice. So we had some really early wins when we first started. The CEO of Chobani Yogurt was someone that we had featured. He was only doing $6 million at the time, and he helped us to actually shape our brand as we feature. Oh, it was so cool. As we talked to him, he basically said, it was a revenue thing. He's like, how do I get on the cover? And I was like, well, we have an editorial process, pictures. And he was like, no. If I get all of my vendors to buy, how much money do you need to make for me to get on the cover? Because in order for me to win, I need the cover of this magazine. Otherwise, I don't want to do it.
Such a good lesson.
Right?
That's awesome.
And I was like, whoa, I never thought of that. So then we started commoditizing our cover stories and really allowing those who wanted to use our SEO product as a business tool to be able to buy into that. And it's a whole collaborative process. So it was, I say all this to say that as time went on, I was always open-minded to what else might be happening. How else can I alter the course of what I'm doing? Listening to people that are smarter and wiser than me, AKA the CEO of Chobani, right? He's like $1 billion public company.
So cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So we evolved and eventually went fully digital, continued with the SEO product, And we cover various industries, food and beverage through Terra Firma magazine. We did the construction magazine, Blueprint, Vanguard. We've got like equity for finance. It was really cool. From there, what we noticed is over the years, so many of our clients fell into three buckets. People would do the magazine article because they either wanted to enhance their personal brand, they wanted to enhance company awareness, right? So that for the purpose of gaining bigger market share, or recruiting. Then eventually recruiting edged up to be 40 to 50% of the reason. So for years, we're writing these content pieces that was totally geared towards recruiting. So we're working with CEOs, executives, HR, framing the pieces to tell real, authentic stories about who these organizations were so they could attract top talent. Because what we found, and I didn't know this, I had no experience with traction or anything at this time, but we just noticed, okay, these top level people are all concerned about one thing. The right people. That's it. That's why it's like it was 90% of everything. Man.
That's so funny.
That was how we got into recruiting, because we literally, our clients started asking us, hey, look, we've got this great content piece. You're helping us with alignment. We were doing culture consulting. They're like, do you guys ever do direct placement? And we're like, well, no, you should call a recruiter for that. And then we're like, wait a minute. Hold on. We're leaving money on the table. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we do.
Exactly.
Okay.
That was how it was born, man. That was literally how it unfolded. Yeah.
Something I think a cool part of the story about how me and you even interacted, and this is why having an open, you said something important there, having an open mind is so important, even though you're super busy. Because how we actually met is one of my clients, they run a large landscaping company, and we're in a session one day, and he may watch this, but I was like, dude, you got to go talk to a bunch of recruiters, like go talk to a lot of different people to find your integrator. And I was like, there's tons of them out there. Go Google a bunch of people, search them, talk to them, feel out who's the best. And something that I've learned over time is by doing that, the best product, the best service comes to the forefront. And that's why Haj is here right now, because number one, he helped him place an integrator. He found a lot of high-level candidates for that company. They had a good experience. They referred him to another one of my clients. He placed someone there. They had a good experience, and then I was like, who is this guy? and so like having an open mind and talking to a lot of different people as a business owner is super important. And what I found is that the more people you talk to, the people who provide the most value always rise to the top. And it's clear as day that you do that. You find high-level people in a short period of time. And on the business owner front, what I've seen and now you're starting to see is that the people running on EOS, they understand the value of like what not having a person costs them in additional revenue. Can you talk a little bit about, we had the event last night. Can you talk a little bit about, what the experience has been as a service provider working with EOS run companies versus those that do not? Just kind of walk me through what that looks like.
Night and day difference, man. If I could only do business with companies that were on board with EOS, I would. Like after having the experience of seeing the difference. I mean, it cuts out such a massive portion of what we do as account managers. So much of what we do is consulting with companies. When we first start with working with someone, we start to ask those questions, right? They say, okay, someone might say, I need this. I need a COO, or I need a project manager. And as you get into it, if you really care, which we do, we don't just want to deliver a body and take a check because we have a replacement guarantee. We want to make sure it's a good fit. We want referrals. Like we want to grow our business the right way. So that requires having deep dive conversations. And so often we deal with companies, especially in the construction industry, that are doing over 10 million in revenue. And you think that someone doing over 10 million, they've got it all together. Like to get there, you must have a tight ship. The answer is no, not always. Like there are so many contractors that are just flying by the seat of their pants, and they think they need one thing, and when we get into it, they need another. So we have to talk them through figuring out, what do you actually need? And sometimes that process is very expensive for us because they tell us what they want. We spend 20, 30 hours in labor, with a team, right, to get it. Then they say, well, no, that's not what we need. I think we need this. And so then we end up going in hundreds of hours on this contingency search where I'm investing our time because we don't get paid unless we deliver, right? To only get to the point where they realize that, okay, they need to really do some soul searching and figure out what they need and when they need it. So it becomes a little bit of just a tailspin. We can't actually get things done. An EOS run company, will come to us and say, I need X. They know exactly what they need, to the point where it just that clarity is so beautiful because I don't have to spend the time really making sure, fact checking. And we still do that. We still make sure it's the right fit in so many ways when it comes to culture and everything else. But generally speaking, these companies are aware that if you need a COO and your top line floor is 150K, but I bring you someone that's 175, but they are the person, like they're the fit. An EO restaurant company says, yeah, that 25K, they're gonna. I don't give a shit. I don't care. It's gonna pay for itself all day long, because the extra 25 grand will be offset by the X number of millions I'll be able to generate because of this strategic placement. And that is something that I think that EOS framework really brings to the table and helps to position those companies to be able to find the right person. Because if you've got these caps or you're limited and you're not thinking creatively, maybe we cap it at 150, but you bring in a profit share percentage so that everyone's happy. There's always 100%. Ways to cut a deal. If the business owner doesn't have the dollars in their hand to make that payroll, there are other ways. But if they come to the table knowing that this is a critical hire, like our job is so much easier.
I have an excavation and demo client. They may actually watch this as well, but talking through the exact same thing. Like, we can't afford this person. I was like, you can't afford not to have this person. Because if this person is spending 40 hours a week only doing business development, how much additional revenue can they add? And they're like, dude. And even the guy that they were recruiting and trying to, get a hold of, he was like, if I was doing this full time, you guys would be like wrecked in a good way. But there's a deal to be made there. And I think the mindset of business owners is that like, well, we can't afford them. What has to be true so we can afford them? Yes. And then you start walking through like, well, we can go find money. We can make, credit line, or we could cut a deal, or, hey, a compensation on the back end. Like, hey, you're going to get equity. Like, there's all different types of games to be played, but like having the vision of saying, we're at 2 million right now. We want to go to 10. And EOS run companies believe that because one, and that's why the event last night, and I'd love for you to share a little bit, what you took away from that. Because there was a lot of transformational conversations that happened last night at this event. And, if you're listening to this, we're going to do more of these because I think the consensus in the room was, just getting in a room with people, you start to recognize the thing that you were avoiding. You see everybody else is struggling with the same thing, and you all know, everyone knows the next step. We just don't do it. So what were your takeaways from the event last night? Personally, for your business, I think, you came up to me after and was like, I need this. Like, we got to do this like now.
The event was amazing. I was just blown away by the energy and the synergy in the room, just looking at and listening to other entrepreneurs who might be in a different business landscape, right? Different setting, but same story, man. We're all facing the same exact thing. And it occurred to me that, like, to do this work, first of all, and I had said this to the other implementer who was there. Clinton, yeah. Yep. I had mentioned, I was like, one of the biggest things to be able to do this kind of work, you have to be willing to, like, have a little bit of an ego death moment and just realize that, there's once upon a time, Haj thought he was such a unicorn, and he was this special man who ran Trueline, and no one else could do it, and no one understands the struggles of my business. Like, no one can replace certain things that I do because I'm so special. And then you start to realize, well, wait, no. As he had said, the exterior, like the siding might be different, but the bones of the house are the same, man.
100%.
Like, you're just not that special, Haj. And you start to realize, like, okay, maybe so. Now it's time to think about how we can actually get some help in the doors. You know what I mean? But I think you have to come to the table with that mentality first,
And Clinton and I talked after, and, this is something that both me and him also took for granted because, we do this all the time. Yeah. So we're like, oh, yeah, of course, like, you're not a special, like, we know that. But the funny part for us, and I think the eye-opening thing about last night is that, every single business owner at that place was feeling all the same stuff. And I think just by being in the same room and hearing that, feeling that, you're like, we're all in the same spot. We all have the same stuff going on. And it was a real, like, awakening moment for me where it was like we say these things, but we need to have more so that it just, like, hits home, so that the action then happens, because the action is what we're all after. Because if you, and like, Anthony Moriel, like another one of my clients who Haj has placed, everything goes well. She starts in next week or something?
Next week, yeah.
Like, high level person, Anthony, super exciting for him. I mean, he's so fired up. But like we've talked about this for years, but like that one hire that goes well, he can double, triple, quadruple the size of his business because he has the visionary integrator duo. She scored a 99 on the visionary integrator test. She's like she's an integrator. So, you know, I think there's so many learning lessons to be had at events like this. I also want to dive back into your business and what sorts of things, because, you know, you have how many recruiters?
So Trueline has shifted to, from where we were in publishing, and we've reclassed staff members, and we're bringing people so we're utilizing people who are content developers for research. We have a ton of reclassing that we've done. So our total headcount's just under 30.
Okay. Yeah. So what sorts of things, you know, let's go back to the event. What sorts of things did you experience at the event that you're going to take away and come back to, or go back to Maine and be like, this needs to change?
So several things. And I just wanted to really quickly throw out there, just before I even answer that question, that for someone who thinks that they, just to put a button on that last point, that they can't afford that integrator, there are often ways. We've now done this for 2 of your clients specifically, where we'll bring in someone that might take a salary that's half of what the compensation package is that they're used to. So they're coming in with less, but when you give that back end piece, there's always a way to make a deal. I just wanted to
100%.
put that on the table, because sometimes people are just literally thinking, oh my God, this is a multi-six-figure position. Well, it will be all in, but if you're willing to pay more on the back end and give up a little bit there for revenue that hasn't come yet,
100%.
you're just buying. You're essentially financing a person.
But like,
it's going to get you there, you know?
It's so important because, like, again, if say you're out there listening to this, you run a $10 million business, you're doing everything, and you're one good hire away. You talk to someone like Haj, he brings you a resume of someone who's working at a $30, $40, $50 million company, because these people exist. They're out there. You just have to find the right people that can go find those people, because those people are not just sitting on Indeed. And like, we should absolutely talk about this. Those types of high-level people need to be headhunted, because ultimately you need to make an offer to them that's attractive to them, why they should come to your company. So talk through a little bit about that. You know, like when candidates are coming through this, what is an attractive thing for them, so that they're like, you know what, my salary was this, but I got this. Like, let's just use that $10 million company, for example. You know, what kind of forward progress or vision does that company need to have and structure in place, so that this person's like, you got your stuff together, and I trust that we can get to here together. So what sorts of things does that look like?
So it could be someone who's making, you know, $325 all in, you know, $325 to $350 at like a manufacturing facility. They're doing operations and they're running things, and they're a department head for that company. And that's solid money they can count on every year. To pull that person in and then want them to make, you know, 150 or 180, for example, you've got to be able to say, I'm going to give you some sort of a percentage of revenue growth from where we are today. So these are every deal is different. You have to, first of all, talk to the candidate. What we do is every search is custom. You have to figure out what the candidate needs, the baseline needs are. And sometimes it just, you know, you can't make it work, but there's always someone where you can. There's literally these people, to your
100%.
point, they exist. And it's about having the person who's in control. The company has to, the head CEO, whoever it is, the founder, needs to recognize that the role has to have clarity with what they're willing to do, and they also have to have a seat at the table. So if you bring someone from some big company, maybe they're making $300,000, $400,000, but they're not really, their voice isn't heard. They'll come work for you for 150 to 180 if they know you're doing 10 million now, but I'm going to give you 2% of top line revenue, 1%, whatever it is, to double to go to 20. So an extra 10 million in revenue, that's 200K. There's your bonus plus your 180. Now you're at 385. You're in the game.
And you hit on something super important that I think EOS companies value a lot, is your input is wanted here. And we want you to own the seat that we're hiring you for. Talk through how valuable having that is for a candidate like that.
Oh my God. When you say to someone, hey, I know you're making this, but this guy needs you. You tell them about the state of the business. And when I can say, and by the way, they're an EOS run company, so they understand, like, just do some Google searches if they're not familiar with EOS, understand the value of an integrator. Like, you know, and when this person really understands that, respects it, and we explain to that candidate, you're going to work hand in hand with the founder. Like you're gonna, like it's truly a seat at the table. Like some of these people don't get to talk to the CEOs of the
100%.
companies that they work for.
Yep.
But if they get to work hand in hand, they're now feeling like they're in this startup ground floor opportunity, right? With a company that may have been around for 10, 20 years. So they've got the stability that makes them comfortable making the move, but they know that they're going to be a part of something huge. And if that visionary founder is saying, we're going to go from 10 to 20 and I need your help, there's a special person. There are so many people that want that opportunity, man. They want to be in. They want to be in the game. And if they see that there's high end on the backside, they will take the risk. Because a lot of these people, they've got money too. They've been making money for 10, 15 years, banking it in their 401k. They can afford to take
100%.
a little bit of a pay cut, up front to be a part of something that's going to feel good. And it's going to allow them to really give all of themselves intellectually and emotionally to this organization. It's fun for these people, man.
I cannot stress how funny it is when you're on the other side of it and you're like, so I need to just create that opportunity and we're going to attract really, really good people? Like, is it really just that? Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of things that play into this. So, like, a lot of the clients that I've been working with have been on a journey. So, like, Anthony's been, 2-3 years on a journey to get to the point where they've grown, and, like, again, a lot of my clients are growing at the top, like, 3 to 5% of growth rates in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
So their visions are wildly different. Mm-hmm. So having that and actually executing on it. So when a candidate says, what'd you do last year, the year before, and the year before? And you're like, we doubled. And they're like, oh, Jesus, oh,
right.
goodness.
Yeah.
But then they have confidence that that's actually going to happen. So, like, if you're listening to this, shoot for the person. Like, go for it. And I think the visionary integrator thing, how much do you know about the visionary integrator stuff? Like, if you don't know too much about it, I know me and you were like super early on. So
yeah, fair amount. I've read Traction. One of my former business partners, Sean O'Reilly, had like forced us all to read it and made us start doing. He was trying. He wanted to be an implementer. He was actually gonna. That was sort of like what he thought. When he read it, he's like, "This is my calling, man." He was so moved by it.
I mean,
so he forced.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
I have not read the book again. I read it 5 years ago, or roughly. I think it was 5 years, 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere around there. So I know the bones, but I will not claim to be like fluent in the language, although I'm sure soon I will be.
I'll dive in.
Yeah.
So the visionary and integrator, and this is for everyone out there, visionaries are big idea people. They have 100 different ideas. They say things where you're like, oh yeah, like creative problem solver. They can just like rattle things off really quickly. They don't typically like hard conversations and they don't like details. They just get super bored. Integrator, on the other hand, you're like, is that me? Integrator, on the other hand, someone super consistent. They love working with people. Some visionaries are like, I don't want to manage anybody. However, what happens is they end up in the integrator seat. They end up doing both. And the challenge with that is that they're not spending their time doing this, which ultimately is costing the business hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars because they're not rainmaking. Anthony's a prime example. Without really putting a lot of effort into rainmaking, they've grown substantially. Now with someone behind him who can put the pieces of the puzzle together. This is the structure we need. These are the people we need. This is everything we need to actually let you go nuts. Go all in on that. So like, I'm pumped for someone like him. But for anyone listening to this out there, find your duo. There's a book called Rocket Fuel. So that's probably the next one you should read. Okay. Because Rocket Fuel is that relationship between the visionary and integrator. So like the cost of not getting this person is just far, far too high if you have a big vision. Yeah. Talk through some of the things and the lengths of because I think an important topic here is I'll just do it myself. Yeah. Oh man, let's dive into that. You absolutely can. If you have a large vision, it's like trying to build a house yourself. It's like, don't waste your time. Go hire an expert. So talk through, what it looks like for a business owner who's like, I'm just going to go find that person on my own. And what sorts of things do you have to do to get a pool of candidates? And obviously you've been doing this for how long? So, it's like you can do it with your eyes closed at this point. Just kind of talk through that so the viewers can understand like the actual amount of time it takes to get the highest level talent.
To get the highest level talent, right. So, I mean, in order to find so if you need like a true integrator for a company, let's just say it's give me an industry. What do you want to use as an example?
Let's do some sort of contracting.
Okay,
Let's
cool.
go. We'll just do like an HVAC business, residential HVAC business.
Perfect. So residential HVAC business, someone needs an integrator. They want to have the visionary needs to be able to step away and create more, and they need that right-hand person. In order to find the person that's going to fit, you would need to, this isn't something where you post an ad and say, hey, look, COO, here it is. Like, what's the pay range going to be exactly? This is a conversation. Like, you can try and post it. In fact, you should, maybe, because if you're not at the point where you understand the value of what a service like a recruiter is, and it doesn't have to be me, by the way. It's not like a selfish plug. I would love people to use me, but there are others out there.
100%.
Like whoever you use, like generally speaking, you got to find the right recruiter for the right job. Someone last night had said, had asked me if I could find them the lower level sales reps. And I explained to them, I was like, look, give me a call and I'll walk you through how this works. Because there are companies that specialize in lower level sales reps and they have great guarantee policies and that's what they do. They're retainer-based business. One of your clients who I had actually done a placement for had asked me because they were going to work with someone else who was doing a retainer-based model where they could just churn people. And he was so nice. He called and he's like, hey, Haj, do you want to do this? You've done such a great job with the other search. And I literally had to say no because I was like, that's just not where I shine, right? So I know where my lane is. Like when it comes to finding that integrator, call me. Like we know what we're doing. When it comes to the lower level roles, there are people for that. And sometimes you might get to a place where you might not need that person. You might need an in-house recruiter because if you're going to pay $6-7 grand for a monthly retainer for a company that's bringing in salespeople that are canvassing, for example, at a certain point you might want to pay 75 plus bonus. Now you've got a 6-figure position, yes, but there's always a churn. If you know that's a part of your model, it's a worthwhile business expense.
100%.
At some point, you will pay less for recruiters because you're going to bring that work internal, right? But for a search like a true integrator search, to answer your question, it requires reaching out to similar and adjacent industries because it's not always the exact industry. There might be someone who does they might be an electrical, they might have worked for an electrical shop, but the bones of how the company works are the same, and they also understand enough about HVAC where they're coming in from a much, much larger organization, and they're able to bring with them all of these operational efficiencies and systems that you just don't have. And that it's a blueprint for success, man. And they bring it with them. It's all in their heads. And when they get there, it's like night and day. But to find that person, it requires making phone calls after hours. These people are not responding to LinkedIn ads. You've got to call them on their cell phone. You've got to find their cell phone. You've got to be able to make that cold call pitch and say, hey, I know you're slammed, but look, I got a crazy opportunity. Give me a shout. Like we train our people to do this, and then we will hound them day after day and get them on the horn. We never mention the company name because we don't want to cause any friction. We just mention ourselves as Trueline, and then we get them on the horn and talk through the opportunity, figure out where they're at, figure out whether they're a fit, and then if we can make a deal happen, we start negotiating. It requires literally each recruiter is going to put in somewhere. We have a minimum of 50 phone calls a day for our recruiters. You know what I mean? LinkedIn touches. There's the whole process. It's a very aggressive outbound engine, and we work in teams of 3 to 5. So we have one account manager with 3 to 5 recruiters working a deal at any given time, and they're all switching off so that they don't, burn out on it. But it's a lot, and then over the course of a week or two worth of work, you might come up with like 1 or 2 candidates. You know what I mean? So when you get that candidate, that represents like a ton of hours of a team of work to get to the point where you now have someone who's at the table who's like, sure, I'll have this conversation, and then you have an interview. That is not work you want to do on your own. It takes a lot of time.
I'm very careful when I say this, but when I say that if you are a growing company and you're moving really fast, the time and cost of you doing this on your own is just, you're not an expert. You're not the expert. You don't do this every single day. Leveraging someone like Haj, other recruiters, leverage their experience. Like ultimately, you're going to leverage the person that you bring in to help them grow your company. Because, being an expert in something, like you can do this now with your eyes closed because guess what? You've poured time, energy, money, processes. You've gotten burned on these things. You've learned. For some business owner who's going to go learn that on their own, you're going to potentially hire someone that isn't as qualified, and then this is when the stuff happens. And I'd love for you to share your perspective of, we hired this person, and like I see this a lot. we hired this person. They're okay. They're doing okay. And we're growing, and then that person starts to not work. And then the business owner's like, well, they're okay. And then the business just stops because they're not willing to have the hard conversation. Because at the real root of it, they didn't hire the expert that was going to get them this person. That's going to be the future pace of the company. So you're not hiring for the company you have today. You're hiring for the company you want in the next 2-3 years. So go spend the money on that person because they're going to bring you back, tenfold of what the person that you found on your own is going to bring you. So talk through a little bit about that whole scenario and how that plays out.
When you find people on your own, typically you're stuck in well, first of all, there's two ways to look at this. Number one, like I could probably jerry-rig some electrical work in my house if I need to.
100%.
I can figure out how to run some wires, but I'm gonna call an electrician who knows what they're doing, so I don't burn my house down.
Burn my family down.
You know what I mean? So
that.
there's that aspect. Like we're just gonna be better at it. We have better touch. We know how to approach candidates. Things like candidate control are parts of our vernacular. Like this is like there's a whole world to unpack of how we even approach and walk candidates through this process. It's just a whole thing. But apart from that, to answer that question specifically, what usually happens when someone does a search on their own, it's very similar to, I'll give a relationship advice, or an example rather. If you're in a relationship and you find that you're stuck in a pattern, you tend to date the same kind of girl, right?
Yep.
A girl dates the same kind of guy. When you leave that relationship and try to find another one, you're typically going to find someone similar. If you notice, people find the same partner until they make a life change, that aha moment.
So good.
It's like you don't really get out of that mold. So if you're trying to find someone, you're going to find the same exact person because you have this myopic perspective on what that person is. You need someone else to say, well, you said you needed X, Y, and Z. And that's what this is. Because usually, even the clients that we've helped, the first pass through, even with Anthony, was like, whoa, these are heavy hitters. I don't even know. You wouldn't have normally thought to reach in that direction, right? Because you're thinking, I need to be over here.
This.
But you need someone else to say, well, I heard what you said, and I've brought you what you need, and now you've got to have that moment where you say, okay, like, it's time. Like, I need to level up. Like, this is uncomfortable. This process is not easy. It's not like we find you the right person, you hire them. You got to soul search. You got to really look and say, okay, this is what I want. Am I really going to? It's the same thing with that relationship. Well, I said I wanted someone who was, more of a giver. Wow, this person is totally different. I have to get used to that. It's no
new.
different, dude. It's no different. Yeah.
Super good advice. At what moment, and I'm super curious to hear your perspective on this, at what moment do people decide to make that life change? I've been with some clients for 2-3 years now, and it's at the point where we've been through the journey, and it's just like, I want this, and we keep coming back to I want this, and my role is to say, what is stopping us from getting that over and over and over again? So what's your perspective on when business owners are finally ready? Like, say you introduce a candidate like that, and my perspective on this is that you just expanded their mindset by showing them, hey, these are people out there. And they're like, what the hell? I didn't even know that. Yeah. So what's your perspective on that whole process?
You're sort of like, you need to have, and I won't use exact names here, but these apply to people it applies to everyone. But one of two things usually has to happen. Someone either is so frustrated, they have to get to the point where they're banging their head against the wall and they're saying, I'm going to burn out. I'm so tired of this. I don't even like this business anymore.
Yep. I'm
done with this kind of, I'm trying to make it work. I'm doing everything Ryan says, but it's just not working. That's what they say, but it's just not working.
100%.
Well, it's not that it's not working. It's just that you haven't taken that step, that moment that you're talking about, that leap of faith. You've got to actually be so damn frustrated that you're like, okay, I am willing to try something. This is uncomfortable for me. And I'm going to step into that. Like, you've either got to be so frustrated or so motivated, where you're just like, I'm uncomfortable all the time because I'm pushing, kind of like Luke. He's just like, I'm going for it. Like, I don't care how uncomfortable I am. I am going to be a $100 million company within the next 5-10 years. So let's do whatever we need to do,
You tell me what. But you know what's so stupid simple about that?
Yeah.
It's just like this. It's the most simple-minded way of operating a business, because ultimately it's like, he knows. And like, he's a really, really smart guy. He knows that the people around him, and he tells everyone, I want to be this. Yeah. What do I need to do to get there? Yeah. It's so simple. That's all he does. And he does it over and over and over again. Yeah. but like there's so many emotions and fears and doubts that
Yeah.
he ignores. And he's like, I want this. What needs to be, what do I need to do to get there?
He makes
You're
it look
you
easy.
need to hire.
Yeah, he makes it look easy.
Extremely.
He makes it look easy, but that's
Very.
exactly right. It is hard. He's going through a lot too. People probably don't see
100%.
that, but he's just
100%.
able to push those feelings away and just lean into that uncomfortable thing and make it happen.
It's just fascinating. Like when you boil it all down, he operates on trust. That he trusts, like, and if you destroy trust with him, that's it.
Yeah.
And he lets you do that, which is so cool because your product and service stands for itself. And if you are someone that provides a lot of value, he's going to keep working with you. It's very simple.
Pretty straightforward,
But yeah, I think another thing, talking about people that are trying to do this on their own, the amount of outreach that you personally have to do, you and your team do, just to get to the first conversation, and not knowing what you're doing as a business owner, the cost of you doing that is the cost of you not setting up the systems so that that company can get to 5, 10, 20, 30 million. What are some of the things that you see when you present candidates to people where they're like, no, we don't need this, or we're not ready for this person? Like, what are the things that those business owners are thinking in their heads of like, yeah, we can't afford this. No, this is not the right person. Or the structure and seat that you're talking through is, oh, that's not the type of person we need. So talk through a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's just really, that's when that happens, it's when the business owner is essentially just articulating that they're stuck, right? They're just kind of stuck, and they're halfway there. They want the change, but they don't want the change, It's like watching the reality dating TV show, and, the girl is like, yeah, I'm gonna find a different kind of guy, and then you see it happening on TV.
Dang
right?
it.
He's the same thing. What are you doing?
Again.
And she's saying it. I know, but I just really like him. It's the same thing, man. And
So true.
it's just a matter of it's just being able to take that leap and just, we try to do that work. That's again why it's so great working with you, because these people, they have the vocabulary to actually quantify or qualify what their feelings are, right? They can say, okay, yeah, I'm in that place. And we can point that out and say, well, this is what you want, right? This is what you said. This is going to take this off your plate. I know, but what? Then you can just kind of ask questions. And really, if the founder or visionary has the EOS background, and they're fluent enough in it, they'll have words to place how they're feeling, and it can help edge them towards the finish line so they can actually get over the hump and make the hire, which is so powerful about, I just have to make this comment, the network and what you're doing, Ryan. Another reason why I was blown away by last night is because you've got all these people in the room who are going through the same thing, and you've got guys who are successful up there who are telling the stories that we can all resonate with, no matter what industries we're in, and it allows you, it makes you want to be more brave, when you see a guy like
Totally
Luke
love
telling
that.
his story, and you're just like, I loved when he was like, yeah, I just see people around me all the time, and I think to myself, if they can do it, I can do it. And what's beautiful about that is, a lot of athletes in the room too. We've all played sports, right? Whenever I stepped onto any new team, I'm always sizing up, okay, yeah, so where am I going to fit? Oh, I can get that guy. Oh, he's better than me, but you know what? I'm going to grind, and all I got to do is increase my vertical by this, or I need to firm up on this aspect, and I'll take his spot. We're all
100%.
We're all friends about it, but
100%.
We're competitive.
100%.
The same thing. You step in a room with 50 entrepreneurs or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, like I can do this. Like this guy went from 20 to 30. I don't care what his industry is. I can do that.
100%.
There's something about that that's just it's wildly inspiring and empowering. Like I felt I could just, it was like pulsing last night.
Totally
You know
agree.
what I mean? It was huge, man.
Totally agree. And I think the emotions that come up when we're on our own are a lot harder because we're alone.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times you can't, EOS run companies, they're a lot more open, honest, and vulnerable with their leadership team so that they can at least have some of these conversations with their leadership team. But if you're an owner, you're like really on an island.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there was comments last night of like, do you guys share profit with your employees and stuff like that? And one of the biggest owners in the room was like, I share my entire P&L, everything. I operate like a public company. because if I don't do that, they're not informed on how they can make this even more profitable, how we can make more revenue so we can hire better people, invest back into our clients, and do better things for our clients and employees. And like that alone right there is like, I think a lot of owners are on an island, and that's why last night was so powerful, because I feel it. Like Tommy from Renewal told me, he literally called me out and was like, you gotta do something like this. And I was like, well, and making excuses myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
So like huge shout out to Tommy, and he inspired this.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, after one of our first sessions, he's like, dude, can you like do something around here? I was like, that's a good idea. And then I noodled on it for like a month or two. And I'm like, all right, we're doing it.
It's huge to hear when Nick had said that, and he's doing $30 million in revenue, and telling his story. And when he says that out loud, you say to yourself, okay. And it was so nice how he broke it down. 'Cause he was like, yeah. And for people who are, he's like, yeah, if people are wondering or uncomfortable with the fact that we're profitable, he's like, well, that's why we're in business. We're here to make money, and a lot of it, because that's, I love that comment, and
100%.
more. And that's how we're going to keep job security for people.
Yep.
And if someone doesn't like that, then they're in the wrong place.
100%.
When he said that, man, it just really opens up your eyes, and it almost gives you permission, especially if you're under that revenue mark, to say, well, if he's doing that, and that culture works, and there's a model for that, I can do that too. And
100%.
that level of transparency is so key, man. It was really, again, very inspiring, very inspiring.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is about the emotions that every business owner feels, and being around others that are feeling those same emotions, going through the same stuff. Just super powerful. I think going back to, and I'll talk about the cost of not doing something all day long. I had a conversation last night with a business owner doing about $2 million in revenue, and he was like, "I'm doing everything. Like I'm the whole leadership team." And I was like, "All right, well, you got to talk to Haj."
Yeah.
But before that, and to your point, we have to get clear on what do you need. And that's what I spend a lot of time on. It's clarity before the person. I hear this all the time, where it's like, I'm going to go hire a GM. What are they going to be accountable for? And they're like, I don't know. Like, oh, whoa, slow down.
Don't hire anyone yet.
Let's get clear on specifically what they're going to be accountable for. And this is the clarity before the hire that you probably spend a ton of time on, but I've done all the legwork with a lot of clients to get them clear on this is what the structure of the business needs to look like, and then this is what we actually need to get you out of so we can do this. So I was talking to that business owner, again, doing $2 million in revenue, and he was like, I'm doing everything. I was like, all right, well, what do you not like to do at all? He's like, dude, I don't want to manage projects anymore. Like, I'm over it. I'm done. He's like, I love selling. I love talking to people. Great. Awesome. All right, so if you were out of operations, like you had someone full-time in there, 40, 50 hours a week, how much additional revenue could you add? He's like, we do like projects that are $200,000 a pop. And I was like, jeez. So and I was like, how much time do you spend in sales? He's like, maybe 5 or 10 hours a week. I was like, triple that, and then triple or quadruple your revenue. And he's like, damn. So you're doing 2 with 1 hire, the right person, a leader who can build that out for you. You can potentially be doing 6 to 8 million in revenue just with 1 hire, just getting clear on what they're accountable for. He was like, wow.
Yeah.
How can we help more business owners get that? Because like I have these conversations a lot, and I want to help more people get clear on that, because then they're like, I can't spend my time trying to get this. Like if I get this wrong, it's everything. So it's like, go to the expert. Yeah. If you get that person right, this whole thing changes. So kind of talk through like, how do we help business owners get clearer on that?
I think that having, honestly, events like last night are a great start, because when you have an event where you can come together and the questions that are being asked are things that we're all thinking about, and when you walk through and you open up the floor for people to ask their questions, oftentimes the answer is right. They're saying the answer with the question. It's obvious. Like if you understand this stuff, it's like it's right in your face. But they can't see it. It's like they've
100%.
got this like veil over their face, and it was great. Like I'll give you an example. Last night, someone had asked that question about, well, how do you know when it's time to like hire a recruiter? Really, do you really want to pay those fees? Because and then you had asked, it was either you or the other,
maybe Jim.
Yeah, I might have asked. Well, so how much you losing? Let's talk about how much
Pipeline,
you're
yeah.
not getting, right? What does it look like? Well, I mean, it's probably 6 figures each opportunity, and we're losing. Okay, so right there, you're saying that the cost of a $60,000 person, 25% is going to be about 15 grand. And if it's a lower level position, there are people that will do that work on retainer, so it might be way less than that to drive that sales engine. And if you're spending 100 grand, but you're leaving 500 or 600 grand or $1 million on the table over the course of the year, it's just a math game. It's just a simple puzzle.
100%.
Do you want to spend 100 grand to make $1 million in recurring revenue? If the answer is yes, let's go. It's really simple. It's just getting people to, I guess, just asking those questions. It's unlocking that logic, because it's really logical. It's like when you spell out for someone, how can you afford not to do this? Like, let's break down what this opportunity cost is. The answer just surfaces immediately, but then it's like taking the leap.
So something I talk about through the journey of EOS and the journey of any business owner I talk to is, and if you notice, the owners that were, Jim is very good about this, but he also works with business owners all day long. Asking the right questions that lead the person to the answer is such a powerful skill, and it's just facilitation. Yeah. And like, I take facilitation courses. All the implementers train on this stuff because it's so valuable. Yeah. I can tell you to hire the person like 5,000 times. Until I ask you the question, you're not going to do it.
Right.
You're like, okay, Ryan, like, you told me 100 times, whatever. All right, well, what's stopping you from growing? And then just keep doing that. Now, the fun part about this is that starts with the business owner. And if you notice, the business owners that move the fastest do that with their teams. And then their teams do that with their people, so that they're not answering the questions for them. So I just think it's a really powerful, it's something that a lot of people, myself included, I didn't put a lot of weight to.
Oh, it's helpful.
You just want to tell people what to do, but it's like, no, I need to ask you the right question. So you tell yourself, and then you're like, oh. Because most people, if like I told you what to do, you're like, well, whatever. But if you say it out loud to yourself, then you're like, yeah.
It's so telling and it's so revealing, and I love that you guys use words like, okay, we're going to be vulnerable, guys. You got to be vulnerable, because, there's a moment where you realize very quickly that the biggest hang up we have as business owners, it's fear and this scarcity mentality. And we're constantly fighting it. Last night, I felt it when you had asked one of your first questions. You had asked, like, what was one of my takeaways from last night? And I realized, oh my God, I've got to spend at least $100 grand. Like, I walked out of that thing saying, okay, I need to spend at least $100,000 like now. And I'm going to. And it's probably going to be more than that, because I called my integrator last night and kind of debriefed her with the whole thing. And then she was like, okay, that said, we need this too.
Oh,
because
yeah.
we're not, we're doubling up on roles, and it's obvious we need to do it. And then when I asked myself the same questions that you were asking, I just asked myself the same question, because you had just done that. And I'm like, well, why am I not doing this? Because I'm scared, because I am being a scaredy cat.
Yeah,
there's no
literally.
I'm coming from a place of scarcity, and I don't want to mess up, and I don't want to spend the money and not get the ROI. Okay, so I'm now I have to confront and be like, yep, Haj, you're being a scaredy cat. Are you going to do this or not? Do you want to grow or not? And okay, let's do it. Like, it's that, man.
I love this so much, because there's so many, like, our brains are fascinating. I really should probably dive more into psychology, because it's so fascinating to me, like, what our brains will do. Like, for example, I mean, there's so many lies that we tell ourselves, and I'd love for you to kind of hit on some of them. Again, you work with business owners all day long, so you see a lot of the lies I do, and they're just, you're not a bad person. they're just excuses.
Yeah.
And like, our job is to help you work through those, because ultimately, like, one of the lies I hear, it's not the right time. I don't actually want to grow more. It's like. And when people say that, when I ask, so you don't want to make more money and do less. Okay. That's just, and it's a lie that we tell ourselves of the fear. We're getting away from the fear, because we're like, this is just uncomfortable as hell. Yeah, it is. So talk through some of those things that because listen, I think all of us being real with like what the vulnerabilities are, of like, when you're in that seat where you're about to hire the $200,000 person, you're like, a lot of fear is going to pop up. Oh, what if they suck? What if they don't work out? Like all these things start popping up. So what are some of those things that you see so that the listeners can hear the emotions and be like, I'm just being a scaredy cat?
So it's usually, I've been burned before, this isn't going to work. Oh, it's not that simple.
Yep.
All these little things. Just waiting before this podcast, I was talking to your buddy Randy, awesome guy, had a great conversation.
Shout out Randy.
Shout out Randy. And we're probably going to do some exchange because there's some deals that he might be really good at that I don't do, specifically with engineering, that we're going to talk about collabing on, which is awesome. So much props to Randy. But I do want to say one of the things that struck me in the conversation, though, he had mentioned how he was asking about scaling. How did you scale? When I scaled, I got burned by like $100,000. I tried to hire this person, it didn't work out, and kind of screw that, I'm done with it. Okay, that happens.
Yep.
And it sucks.
Yep.
It is not fun to lose money. It is not fun to get burned. But I can tell you that I watched my daughter play volleyball, and she was new at it, and I watched her get balls smashed at her that were coming at her 100 miles an hour, and she got hit in the head a couple of times. She looked stupid when she showed up to practice because all the other girls had been on club before.
Yep.
And here she is trying to figure it out. She's bringing nothing but hustle and athleticism, and it was so hard. Those first 2 months were just I felt bad for her, but she
It's
just,
so good.
you know what I mean? But she was just getting pummeled
Yep.
time after time. And then, next thing you know, nice pass. Okay, yeah, serve receive. She's killing it. Next thing you know, she's the one smashing. It started off with just one really good hit, like that golf swing that makes you go back. That one really good hit. And then she was yearning for more, so she keeps grinding, getting smashed in the face. Then next thing you know, she's returning things. And at the end of the year, she's trying out for the national team up in Maine, which is great. So shout outs to Zuri there. But it's that mentality, right?
So true.
It's that, yes, we get burned and we have to get up and fight again.
Yep.
We've got to recognize that we're afraid. We now have a scar. That happens. We've been punched in the face. So are you going to bow out of the fight, or are you going to get up and fight another round, man?
100%.
That's the thing, being able to say, not to leave it there. And if you're not ready, that's okay too, because for some people, if you're not ready, it's fine, but at least acknowledge that's what it is. Yeah, at least be aware of that. Don't pretend that you're doing the work and then stop and say, I'm still doing the work. You're not doing the work. You're bowing out, and that's okay. But call it what it is.
Call it the trade-off you're making is that.
Yeah.
And just because I think that also will leave a lot of business owners that are listening to this kind of at peace, where it's I am choosing this.
That's it.
Now, I will forever push back on that because I personally think that choosing this is just a knowledge gap that you don't know how to do this, which is fine and totally solvable. We can solve for that. Like the event last night, everyone walked away with, that guy's doing it, why can't I? Yeah. And that is everything that I want out of this podcast, out of all the things that we're going to do, because that is the thing. That is the one thing that's stopping everybody from thinking, I'm going to build a $10 million company because I can. Yeah. So that's something, I think the emotions behind this, I'm really grateful that you're bringing these things up, because I think the vulnerability is why we don't do the thing. The avoidance of a hard conversation, the avoidance of accountability, the avoidance of what if it doesn't work? Well, what if it does? The scarcity mindset. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think, maybe enlighten us over the course of your career, your journey with abundance and scarcity, and how it kind of plays into your business and your life. I think that'd be a really cool share.
There's constantly, it's almost like that lizard brain, they call it, right? There's this part of you that's just really always weighing how much is on the table, how much food is there, how much is actually available to me. And there's always this decision, especially as a provider. I've got a wife and 4 kids and 2 young ones that are still in the house. And so I'm always thinking about, okay, there's private school, there's volleyball costs, and, and college coming up. And, do I want to take this risk because I need this money allocated for that? And then my retirement, and then I want to make sure I have vacations. I'm already spending the money in my mind. And so the idea of taking away from this thing that I have that's stable, the biggest killer of success, growth, is success and growth. Because when you have success and you've experienced growth, you just want, there's a part of us that wants to hold on to it. And we don't want to let it go. So we're holding on and we're gripping it, and then we're stuck. We're stuck right there.
Good.
We're stuck right there, right? You got to be able to let go and recognize that you got successful and you grew because you were leaning into your fears and you believed that abundance was there, and open your mind up again. And then you can take that next step, right? But it's always, I think it's a constant tension, man. Don't you? I mean, like, right? Every stage of the way, you get there again. Well, I'm good now. I'm at 10 million. I'm going to stay here. I'm making plenty of money. I'm good. 100%. I'm good.
It's interesting to see what motivates people too. And this is something, through EOS we talk through is like, what's your core focus? Why are you doing this? Yeah. Throw money aside. Like, why are you doing this? And for me, it's like, I ignored emotions a lot for maybe the past 5 or 10 years of my life, like prior to, EOS, but like leaning into my emotions of like, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. And it's just to help. There's so many people suffering out there from like I had a business owner who was like on the verge of tears, and he's like, I'm done, I'm out, I don't want to do it anymore, I want to quit. And like, man, and I want for him like to have shown up last night, man, like they're all going through it. And I hope he watches this because I want to help him. Yeah. It doesn't need to be that way. And it's a knowledge gap away. It's one experience share from last night away from all of a sudden the switch goes off. Yeah. You're like, I've just been playing small ball. So I think for me, abundance and scarcity it's so what's the word? Invigorating when you're around people that are fully abundant. Yeah. It's like nothing, and I felt like that last night. Yeah. Where everyone was all abundance. Yeah. Yeah. And I purposely, but like that's the scarcity mindset has never helped anybody. Nope. Because there is a way. Like for example, if you're operating out of scarcity for those hires, you're like, what if it doesn't work? You're like, well, I can't afford it. Like all those things start popping up where the abundance is like, how can I afford it? What has to be true? And you start asking those questions. So like talk through the power of like abundance versus scarcity and surrounding yourself, even for me in my personal life, like it's been hard when the negative mindsets, it will drag you down. Do you have any experiences with that or any shares to?
Yeah, I mean, like, just you're now tapping into something like you're tapping to this psychological point. You're tapping into like just a whole mind frame in terms of how human beings live, man. Like you have choices, and there are people who might say who are living under an oppressive rule, for example, in some place in the world, and they can't make a choice to fight against it because if they do, they're going to get killed. But even then, you've got a choice, right? Because it's fear. It's like, okay, but if you go against that and you do what you feel makes, if you see the abundance on the other side of what's possible, like all the freedoms and liberties that so many liberated people across the world, no matter what country you're talking about, have experienced. Anytime there's human revolution, you've got this innate desire where people are saying, I'm willing to risk my life for this. Like, I will die. I would rather die and give that than to live this way because I believe in that abundance, that concept that I can have it all. Yeah. And you know what? For those folks, it's like, if your life is gone, at least you lived. You lived in a way that was congruent with how you want to feel all the time. Nothing can stop that. So just because someone says, I'll end you, okay, great, do it then. It doesn't matter.
And then you're like, whoa, all the power is within you.
Dude, it's so it comes down to like, really looking into like what I think why it's hard for you to recognize when you had said, I won't accept that because that's how you are. That's how you're hardwired. And that's why the work you're doing is so powerful because you're helping people with their businesses. But that's like I see that as the veneer, man. The core of what you're doing is you're helping people unlock a lifestyle of just recognizing themselves as fully realized human beings who are going to walk into anything that comes their way with their head held high and saying, you know what, I can do it, and just going for it. And you're going to, it's not a perfect science. Life is, you're going to get hit in the face a few times,
100%.
But if you live that way, it's it's like mental liberation. I don't know how to describe it. That I think is incredibly powerful and it feels good. Apart from the money and everything else, 100%. It's the same way on the sports field. It's the same thing with relationships. It's a lifestyle, man, is what I think you're really grooming people to move towards.
Nick and Jim said something last night. Nick said the the one thing that struck me when I first met Ryan, and this is something that I've just, and Jim lives this. Yeah. But he, I told him, I was like, listen, dude, you're you're so successful right now, like whatever. Right. What do you want in your life that you're not getting today? And let's build the business around that. And it's so like, whoa, because a lot of the times our first instinct, and again, the purpose of this podcast, everyone wants to dive back in. And then your life is sacrificed. Jim said something else that, and I asked everyone after, I was like, does that make anybody feel guilty? Because Jim's like, every day in the middle of the day, I work out, I lift, not my non-negotiable. And everyone's like, what? And yet his business is growing at a rate that,
it's on his 95%. Calendar. He lets people see it. He lets the employees see it too, he said.
Yeah, and so he's like, I want everyone to know that's what I'm doing, because that's the culture that I want to promote. I want to promote, and I love him for this, value mindset. Get the owner our client, get them value. We want to deliver them. If they're doing 5% net profit, we're going to deliver you a pathway to get to 10, and that's going to result in $800,000 in net profit to your bottom, whatever the number is. Okay, so then they're going to pay you whatever, and then you can do whatever you want. However you get them there, it doesn't matter, and I love that. Because ultimately, any company can have that. It's just the mindset that's kind of stopping them from doing that.
Oh yeah.
So super powerful.
It's interesting, when the thoughts that come into our mind, the scarcity, fear stuff. It's like, I think we all sometimes, we don't talk about it enough, and that vulnerability piece is key, because like I think we're all hearing the same thoughts. When after the talk yesterday, and I realized I needed to make a change for. There's a tech website thing that I've got to just have a full-time person for. I recognize that it's going to cost me $100K. And there's another position that I need to bring in, because you had challenged me actually when we were first talking, and you were referring me clients, and I was like, you know what, Ryan, I'm going to work with these people myself and handhold this. And you sent me that voice chat back. You're like, hey man, that's really cool. You're like, I really appreciate that. It's really nice of you, Haj, but my EOS spidey senses are tingling, and if you're doing all of that, like that's a problem. So we should probably talk about. You should think about that. Yeah. And I didn't respond at first, and I was like, oh man, I really do need to think about that. And I realized, and I was like, okay. Again, fear-based. I have a relationship that I care about, that I want to do right by this person, by this group, and I need to do it, and I need to make sure that I step up and handle this so that Ryan knows, so that he continues to send me work, and we can develop this relationship.
Which I super appreciate, like big time.
Right, but still, it's a fear-based thing. I'm afraid, 100%. You had said, I want you to have systems, Haj, where if I'm sending you business because it is you and your team that will deliver, not you personally, man. And that was just, when it hit me, I was like, oh my God, what a great reminder. I was using fear to not allow me to recognize, yes, I do need to bring on Ian and have another account manager and just really start to scale more and spend not a one, but probably $200K. If I do those things, maybe my partner Joy is not going to see the profit that I promised her, and she might leave, and I'm going to be screwed without Joy. All these things are in my mind as to why I don't spend the money. Oh, well, I want to make sure everyone's happy. I want to, all those things. 100%. I'm afraid of losing people. I'm afraid of failure. And then the moment you step away from that and say, I'm going for it. Things start to synergize again. But it's a leap, man. It's a mental leap.
I think, and what anchors this whole thing, and obviously this has been an amazing conversation. I think what anchors that is we're going to double and triple revenue in the next whatever years, and your partner, are you on board with this? Yeah, because we're gonna and I had a client earlier on that kind of was like, yeah, we're gonna stop doing this because we want to make more profit now, and I was like, listen. Do you want that now or do you want that later? It's what's your vision? Because you're sacrificing your long-term growth for short-term profits. And that's the funny part of business, is that the people who wait the longest get the most. So I think the vision of you or whoever else out there that's listening of tripling revenue and saying, hey team, this is where we're going to go. Profit this year, yeah. Profit this year, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to make investments to get there. What do we need to do to get there? And this is super hard. Without EOS, it's so hard because these are super uncomfortable conversations. Yes, they are. And you're like, I need someone to just kind of lay this out for me. But they're hard conversations that can easily be avoided. Is there anything else that you'd want to highlight, cover today that we didn't cover at all?
No, I think, great conversation. I'm reinvigorated even after just leaning into this even more and saying out loud and remembering that, like, yep, the voices are going to come. They're going to tell you, they're going to say, you're going too fast. Slow down. You're going to lose it all.
So
People
good.
are going to leave. Things are going to leave you.
Yep.
You're going to lose. You just got to continue to squash that voice and just be thinking about what you're actually there to do, and focus on that and move it forward, man. I mean, I'm committed to that as a lifestyle. So yesterday's meeting was incredibly powerful, and I'm grateful to have been able to be there and just be in the room with all those amazing people.
Yeah.
And grateful to be on this podcast with you. This has been great, man. I think the more you continue to do sessions like that and just expose people with a few of those key questions, the more people will realize how important this work is. Because it will pay dividends, not just in your bank account. That's like probably the lowest on the total. Even though we're saying it's about revenue, it's more than that.
Nothing makes me happier than watching, the journey of Jim, Luke, and Nick, and now they're able, like, they're at the beginning. They're still at the beginning, which is so cool for me to just watch how they've grown and how they've developed their teams, and now they're going to get to do that for other people and within their companies and building leaders. So I just super grateful to be doing this. Grateful that you came down here. I think
thanks for having me.
About anyone out there that's looking for someone to help you with high-level C-suite executive, Haj is your guy. He's now helped 6 of my clients find very high-level people in a short period of time. So if you have any recruiting questions, Haj, where can we find you?
Our website is wearetrueline.com, but you can message me directly on LinkedIn, Haj Carr, HajCarr. Pretty easy to find. Just shoot me an email, Haj@wearetrueline. Happy to connect, and from there we would put you in touch with one of our account managers and just work through the process to find the right talent. So anything, high level execs. If you're in construction, it's anything that's like estimator, project manager, superintendent, and above. Those are the roles we would do. Below that, like if you're looking for like laborers or salespeople, even if you needed consultative advice for any of your clients, like call me. Like a couple
100%.
people last night, I was like, look, I'm probably not going to be your guy, but I will walk you through how to do this and decide who you should work with, or if you should bring it in-house. Like, I don't want to make all the money. I want to make the right money that I can deliver on.
Yep.
So people know you can count on me.
He's
for
the guy.
this. I don't want to take someone's cash for something that's not right for our firm or their firm, and then we have it's just not worth it. So
Totally agree.
happy to do that work, because when I do that work, it feels good, it's fun. I get to learn from that business owner on things that they're doing. It's a great collaboration for me just to talk to successful entrepreneurs. And down the road, they might have someone that they do need our
100%.
services for. So just even if it's not something that falls in our wheelhouse, I'm happy to point people in the right direction and have those conversations.
Seriously, thank you for coming down and doing this. I think there's going to be a lot of value that comes of this. And as we do more and more events, guys, we had 40 to 50 people in the room last night. These are all business owners doing over $1 million in revenue, all right here in New Jersey. We had 2 outsiders. Haj came from Maine, and then we had Alicia come out of the city.
Yeah.
That's a rare one.
Yeah.
So if you're a business owner here in Monmouth and Ocean County or anywhere here in New Jersey, and you want to come to the next event, just shoot me a message. We'll probably do these once a quarter. And then, starting in June and July, we're going to start doing monthly, more intimate workshops to dive into like the actual bones of your business to help you work through those things and the bottlenecks you're facing, so that you can ultimately get what you want from your business. So, Haj, seriously, thank you for this. And that's a wrap.
Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.